Good morning, people. Welcome on in to another day. Good to see you. How we doing, people? We got 15 in the house. We're gonna need a couple more. Oh, there's 18. Everyone's making the jump there. 9 o'clock. But it is a great day, people. It is a great day. A great Wednesday. And, yeah. Happy you guys are all here ready to learn about some human capital. Human capital in the house. All right, people. Let's get to some announcements. Really, the only announcement I have for you guys is keep chipping away at your EDP and your junior interviews if you've not already done so. Remember, if you finish both of them, make sure you go on and you turn this assignment in for me right here. I think it was the EDP instructions thing. Yeah. See, like this. See how 9 of you guys turned it in, right? If you have your interview and your EDPs done, I would really like you to do that. That way I can kind of just get a tally and kind of cross-check it with career counseling, all right? That'd be pretty nice. Aside from that, there really is no other announcements. Oops. We're just moving along with the content. Today we're going to start Chapter 10, which is Human Capital. We're going to fly through it. And then we already did Chapter 11 earlier in the year when we learned about economic systems. We learned about the role of government, right? Because it made sense to learn about a mixed economy and what that looks like. So then we're going to go ahead and start Chapter 12 tomorrow. And we're going to spend a lot of time on Chapter 12. Chapter 12 generally is a little bit more difficult for students to kind of grasp. And I think it's just more important than most of the other chapters. So that's kind of where we're heading. In econ, all right, people, let's get to your attendance in the chat. I know it's early, but this is one of my favorite ones to actually ask you guys. It's, what is your favorite specific sandwich of all time, right? I want specifics. Where do you get it? What do you ask to be on it? What do you not want on it, right? What's your favorite sandwich of all time? Last night, I'll share mine while you guys are thinking of yours. Last night I had a French dip sandwich, which is one of my favorite sandwiches of all time. Let me show you a picture of it. And then the night beforehand I had a Reuben sandwich, which I like a Reuben sandwich a lot. So yeah, what is your favorite sandwich? I want to know the fixings though. I want to know, what do you put on it? What do you put on your, or where do you get it at, right? You guys probably don't make it at home, right? You get it somewhere, like a Subway or something like that. But here's a French dip sandwich. Oh, it is amazing. And every bite you kind of just dip it in the, it's like a vinegar horseradish sort of sauce. Oh, it's so good. Right now, what sounds good is like a everything bagel, egg, bacon sort of sandwich. Ooh, that'd be pretty good. PB&J? No way your favorite sandwich is a PB&J. Are you kidding me? Now, PB&J is good. I'm not going to argue that. It is a classic sandwich, for sure. Are you kidding me? There's got to be better sandwiches out there. So we got chicken bacon ranch at Jersey Mike's. I got to try Jersey Mike's. It's been a favorite one from students. Chicken bacon ranch from Jersey Mike's. Chicken bacon ranch is good anywhere. But I've never had Jersey Mike's. I think there's a new one around town, so I'm going to have to go check it out. We got the PB&J crew. Family grilled secret chicken sandwich. Family grilled secret. What's so secret about it? What are you putting on it that's so secret? And Caitlin, I think, likes the PB&J. Oh no, she said she changed it. Here we go. We got some crazy ones rolling in here. We got Subway spicy Italian with pickles, spinach, and Italian dressing. That sounds really good. An Italian sandwich, you can't go wrong. Spicy Italian. That's interesting, right? Cheesesteak sandwich from Big John's. Ooh. That sounds pretty good. A Philly cheesesteak is, you can never go wrong with that. I don't get it from anywhere, but it's like some kind of pita bread with Munster cheese, mayo, turkey, and if I'm feeling unhealthy, I put a little cheddar ruffles on there. That sounds pretty good. I like that. That's a good answer there. It's like Taco Bell. They put like Doritos and stuff in there, like in Fritos. You get a little crunch, It's pretty good. Anthony says making a BLT at home. BLTs are very, very good sandwiches, for sure. Actually, Big John steak and cheese, yes. That sounds amazing. PB&J with raspberry jam. That sounds pretty good. Turkey bacon ranch with no onion or tomato at Firehouse Subs. Yeah, I don't usually like a lot of onion on my sandwiches. I don't mind onion on a lot of things, but I don't like it on a sandwich for some reason. I generally do like tomatoes, but sometimes they can put too much tomatoes on there. I feel that. Jimmy John's BLT with the hot peppers and that spicy ranch. Make sure the music isn't too loud here. I haven't had Jimmy John's in forever. That used to be my go-to during the school year. Like in school, I'll just order it to the school. It's freaky fast. I haven't had it in a while. I do like a spicy ranch though, like a chipotle ranch. Ooh. Tuna sandwich with lettuce, tomatoes, onions, cucumber, mayo, and American cheese from Subway. That sounds like a healthy sandwich actually. Tuna sandwich is pretty healthy, people. The veggie sandwich from Oliver Tees. Ooh, Oliver Tees does make the best sandwiches for sure. That's a good shout right there. Barbecue steak and cheese. Ooh, barbecue steak and cheese. Sounds pretty good. Italian sub from Jimmy John's classic. PB&J with rhubarb jam is like crack, says Kieran. I don't know if I can endorse that, but nice. That's some good sandwich. People, you're making me hungry. It's only 9 o'clock. Kind of feeling a breakfast sandwich. You know who makes a good breakfast sandwich, people? Is Big Apple Bagel. Big Apple Bagel makes a very, very good Christmas sandwich. I meant to go to the coffee shop for our warm-up today. I don't know about that one, Chief, says Irwin. Yeah, we gotta change up the mods, though. We gotta get some new people being mods. Who are people that are participating a lot? We'll see. I'll make it a little determination here after the lesson. We need some new mods though in the chat, for sure. Marmalade is up there. I love Big Apple Bagel. Yeah, they just opened up a new one in Fenton, so now there's a Big Apple Bagel, close to me, which is sweet. Because I haven't had it since normal school year when I like go to Grand Blanc, right? Go to work and I would stop by Big Apple Bagel sometimes, but. Yeah, they got one here now too, which is really, really, really cool, for sure. The coffee's amazing. Oh, their coffee's so good too. All right, people. I haven't gone out in a while, so I don't know any of these places. I know, I hear that. You know what? I get takeout a lot. I get takeout a lot, for sure. Yeah. So, all right, people. Let's get into it, shall we? Let's get into it, shall we? Alright, so today we're going to talk about human capital and the labor market, also known as the resource market. The supply and demand for workers, right? The supply and demand for people. We're not going to be graphing supply and demand and all that. We could, but it's just all, supply and demand's flipped, essentially. But we're going to be talking about what are the different types of workers out there? How do we classify the different types of workers? What makes somebody quote unquote an unskilled worker or a semi-skilled worker or a skilled worker or a professional worker? Who is counted in the labor force? What are ways in which you can increase your human capital, aka your resume, right? First, actually, I keep doing this. This is the second day I've done this in a row. I forgot to post. I have it ready to go. I forgot to post your note guide for the day, your daily assignment for the day, which probably for most of you guys you'll be able to finish it within the hour. But you guys know that, right? That that how the courses or how all the classes at Grand Blanc are set up, remote, is you're supposed to learn for an hour, right? And then the 30 minutes afterwards, you're supposed to be working on some sort of assignment that pertains to what you learned about, right? Now, generally we finish all that within an hour's time, but here it is. Here's your human capital note guide. So if you want to pull that up while we're kind of going through the notes, and again, people, this is going to really, really help you on the final exam, right? Having all this consolidated for you. That way, you get a question on, which type of worker, semi-skilled, skilled, what kind of worker is this? If given a description, boom, you just go to your note guide, right? It's super, super easy. So I'll go ahead and post this for you. Follow along. You can do it during the instruction or you can do it after the instruction. It does not matter. Did I post this right? Did I give you guys all? Did I make a copy? I hope I made a copy for everybody. Yeah, I did. Okay, good. Man. Anyway, all right, before we get started, it says warm up, and that warm up is on your note guide, right? So do it on the note guide as well. You don't have to do it twice over. But I want you to brainstorm and list 5 characteristics of a good employee. Nice. You can edit it. Good. So I want you to brainstorm and think about, what do employers want? What kind of employee do they want? Right? If you're an employer and you're trying to hire somebody, what are generic skills, not specific skills for a specific job, but what are generic skills that you're going to look for in an employee? So I want you to put 5 characteristics on your note guide, and I want you to at least put one in the chat. I want you to at least put one characteristic in the chat. What do you think employers are looking for when they hire a new worker? Like a generic skill. So Michael starts us off here. It says cooperative, right? One that can cooperate and work well with others, right? That's a good one. That's probably a good skill that most employers probably want. So try to think of 5, put it on your note guide, and then think of one, or your best one maybe, and put it in the chat. And try not to do a repeat, all right? If you see someone that already listed yours, and try to think of a different one maybe. Arthur's got hard worker, right? One that grinds, right? One that's up early and, working hard and gives it their best, right? Erwin says one that's invested, right? They have some sort of stake, right? They have some sort of incentive, right, to work hard. Lexa says reliable, right? You can count on them. They're going to show up on time, right? Aiden says responsible. Mason says, show up on time, right? It's as easy as that, right? Responsible, yep. Let's go, people. Let's get some characteristics in the chat. Some of you guys put your sandwich in here and you dipped out, all right? Can't be doing that. Checking on that. Anthony says one that is determined, right? One that is determined. Dedication and teamwork. I like that. What do you guys think? Because I'm going to give you guys the top 10 skills in demand that employers have all agreed upon. Not agreed upon, but like the consensus, the most popular response from employers, right? What they look for when they hire a worker. Right? I'll give you guys those top skills in demand in the year. Actually, I have it for the year 2020. I don't have it for the year 2021 yet. It just changed, but puts in effort. One that is friendly. Nice. Creative. Ooh, Arthur actually hit one of those top 10 ones. Are creative. Creativity is one of the most important things you can have as an employee. All right, I'll give you guys another 30 seconds. We'll see who is still paying attention, who has left the chat. We're going to make Arthur a mod. He's trusted. Is that all? Alrighty, people. All right, so again, think, what are employers looking for when they hire new workers? Here's the top skills in demand in the year 2020. I imagine it's probably the same for the year 2021. Probably for the year 2021, it's probably more so skills that are like this, right? Like communicating online, using internet and things like that, and Zoom and stuff, which at times can be very complex, right? But anyway, number 1 is complex problem solving, right? Being able to solve problems, in your own way, right? Getting around problems, not being like, I don't know what to do. I need to find someone to help me with it. Like solving it on your own is the number 1 skill in demand by most employers. All of mine were said. Is that one? And landed. That's fine. Number 2 says critical thinking, right? Again, be able to think outside the box, not be able to think, narrowly, right? If you, again, kind of goes along with number 1, right? There's a problem, right? There's not just one fix for it. There could be multiple ways, right? Thinking outside the box is a very important skill that is in demand. Number 3, creativity. That's what Arthur said, right? Just being creative, right? Offering something else to the firm, right? Offering something else to the business. 1 and number 2 are pretty similar, right? Solving a problem, right, requires probably, right, some level of critical thinking, I would imagine. And again, these are just like the most popular results, right? The ones that occur the most, right? So some of these, different words could kind of, be very similar. Number 4 is people management, right? Being able to manage people, you guys said a lot of that, right? Work well with others, right? Be friendly, right? Don't, be able to motivate, yet in a friendly, pleasing manner, right? Number 5, coordinating with others. It kind of goes along with number 4, right? Managing others, coordinating with others, right? Hey, we need to be here at this time. You need to do this. You need to do this. I'll do this, right? Division of labor, all work together. Number 6 is, I think it's different than a lot of these other ones. Emotional intelligence, right? I think that was actually one of the traits of the Positivity Project, I think, or social intelligence, I think it's called. I think it's very similar, but that's being able to control one's emotions, and then also, right, be able to recognize other emotions, right, and have empathy. You guys know what empathy is, right? Put yourself in someone else's shoe, right? Empathy, which I think is very important. I think we as Americans kind of struggle with that a little bit, right? Empathy, and I'm sure other nations do as well. But empathy is a very important skill that is in demand, right? Can you put yourself in the shoes of another person, right? And understand why they are having the emotions that they're having, right? That is very, very important, I think. Number 7, judgment and decision making. We're just having good overall judgment and decision making, right? Not making stupid decisions, right, where maybe the costs exceed the benefits, right? Just having good overall judgment, right? Not putting something stupid out there on social media or something like that, right? Just having good general judgment, right? And making decisions, things like that. Number 8 is service orientation. I looked that one up because that one was like, what does that mean, right? I believe that is recognizing people's needs before they ask for them, right? So like if you're managing other workers or working with other people, right, you sort of can recognize help that they might need or things that they might need without them actually asking for it, right? What would be an example of that? I don't know. I think teachers do it a lot, right? Like they give you something that helps your learning that it's easy for teaching, right? Because I basically repeat myself, 7 years, like I know what students struggle on, so like I work and make sure they don't struggle on it, and I itemize that and make sure it doesn't happen again. That's kind of the idea, but other industries don't have the luxury of kind of doing the same thing over and over again, kind of like I myself have. If there's an acronym for it, well, I think it changes all the time, and I'm sure if you look at different websites that and they compile this information, I'm sure it's different. But number 9 is negotiation, right? Being able to negotiate, again, is another skill that I feel like we're kind of losing a little bit, right? Being able to concede a little bit what you want, right? To meet the demands and keep the firm progressing, right? Is negotiating, right? Giving up something to get ultimately what you want. Is a skill I would think is in demand. And then last but not least is cognitive flexibility. I looked this one up as well. It basically is instead of just thinking about one thing, being able to think about multiple tasks simultaneously, right? So like right now, right, a lot of you guys are paying attention while also filling in your note guide, which is I would say some level of cognitive flexibility, or while also right participating in the chat. Cooperative, right? Cuts to listen half if they just said that. Yeah. And just being a little more specific, All right. Anyway, so that's just kind of if you have this, right? If you have some of these skills or a lot of these skills, right? You have a lot of human capital. You're very marketable. I would imagine to many employers. Okay. All right. So what is the labor force, right? So what is labor force? We're going to revisit this again when we start talking about macroeconomics and when we start learning about the different macro measures such as inflation, GDP, and unemployment. We're going to learn how does the government calculate the unemployment rate. Well, it's important in the way in which the government calculates the unemployment rate is they calculate the amount of people that are actively looking for work that can't find work divided by the labor force. In other words, you can't be unemployed if you're not in the labor force. You can't be unemployed Also, if you're not actively seeking work, right? So this definition of the labor force is very, very important once we start talking about other things, especially, how we calculate the unemployment rate. So to be in the labor force, to be in the workforce, right, you have to be over 16, which many of you guys are, right? You have to be 16 years and up, and you must have, and you must be actively working or looking for a job, right? Then you're in the labor force, as long as you meet some of these other, criteria, right? And really, what does this mean, right? It's just, who we're counting as the workforce, and then and also it serves as a way to calculate the unemployment rate, which is going to be very, very important. But we're going to be talking about the labor force today. So who are we talking about, right? Those that are working, those that are trying to find jobs, that are over 16 years and up, that also are not retired, right? They haven't already worked, right? And they're old and they're retired, right? We shouldn't expect 75-year-old people to work, right? That's fine. So we're not going to include them in the labor force. That way, when they're not working, we don't count them as unemployed, because they shouldn't be employed, right? They should be living out and not working, right? It would probably be the goal, right? You shouldn't work your entire life, I think. Volunteers, right? Anyone that does unpaid work is not technically in the labor force, even though they're working, right? Active members of the military are not counted in the labor force. Prison inmates are not counted in the labor force. And last but not least, full-time students, right? So technically, even if you're working or you're trying to find a job and you're 16 years and up, like most of you guys are, right? You're technically not in the labor force because you're still at this point a full-time student. Even when you get into college, right? If you're taking above 12 credit hours, you're not technically included in the labor force if you're a full-time student. And again, it's not that you're not important or anything like that. It's just we're not going to count you in a lot of the measures, unemployment rate and labor force participation rate and things like that, just because we want to get an accurate measure of economic health, right? If a full-time student is not working, right, and we count them in the labor force, so therefore we count them as potentially unemployed if they're not working, that reflects poor economic health. Does that really reflect poor economic health, though? A full-time student? No, we want students, right? We want people, getting an education full-time, right? That's a good thing. We don't want them to be counted as unemployed if they're not seeking work. So that's kind of the idea of the labor force, right? And we're just going to sort of narrowly, define who is in the labor force. That way we get an accurate measure of, things that we're going to learn about later on, like unemployment rate, and again, the labor force participation rate and things like that. So anyway, just make sure you know who is in the labor force. If I give you some information, blah, 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 this is Sally and blah, 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 is she or is she not counted in the labor force, right? Make sure you can do that. All right, so how has the labor force changed over time? It says visualizing 150 years of U.S. employment history. Obviously, times have changed, right? Most work was, agriculture for sure. That's kind of why still you have summers off in school, right? I believe it dates back to that, right? Because people would have to go home, not be in school, right, and work on the farm, right? That's kind of the idea, and we still have, summers off, for that reason, right? But obviously, not many are in agriculture anymore, right? Manufacturing is sort of, going away, right? Manufacturing kind of hit its peak in the 50s, and now it's kind of going away, right? So what didn't happen, back in the day, now that is happening, right, is things like financial services, government, education, entertainment, healthcare, right? Much more, I would say, skilled and professional workers, right? So, what's caused that? Why are Americans not producing corn and like steel and things like that? Why are they instead working in these other sectors, these more, I don't know, say like advanced, but like more, work that requires more education and more work experience, typically, right? What is causing this? Oh, before we get to that, these are some cool numbers that I found. Manufacturing represented 26% of U.S. employment in 1960, but now it's below 10% today, right? And then agriculture was close to 60% in 1850, and now it's just 3% of the U.S. workforce participates in agriculture. And then it says how will AI and automation shape future employment. We're gonna talk about that when we talk about unemployment and how we calculate unemployment. Again, this kind of segues into that. But it's something called structural unemployment, right? At some point, right, in American history, we will encounter a problem where automation, AI, right, robots, will begin to really start taking over employment and substituting out U.S. workers, right, or American workers, right? At some point, robots are going to be able to do the job that many workers are currently doing right now cheaper, right? And firms are going to sort of move away from humans, right, workers, and sort of move to robots, automation instead, especially in this sector right here, especially in the retail industry. I don't want to give you any numbers. I don't want to give you any incorrect numbers, but I know that many economists forecast the retail industry to get really hit hard with AI and automation. Right, those jobs are definitely going to get replaced, in the near future. Right, so if you want to work at Kohl's for the rest of your life, be careful, right? Because at some point or another, automation is going to start really moving into the retail industry. All right. So why, what has really caused a lot of this change over time? A lot of this change has happened in the 1980s. In the 1980s, because there's been a big movement, and when I say like change, like move away from agriculture to like technology, right? Move away from manufacturing to high tech jobs and finance jobs and things like that. Why does that happen? Well, a lot of our jobs have been moved offshore, right? A lot of our jobs have been outsourced, right? So what is outsourcing and what is offshoring? Outsourcing is basically if you're Apple, right? Instead of producing, maybe like think about like maybe like a like the iPhone, right? Like where does the iPhone is made in what 15 different countries? Your iPhone has traveled across the entire world. I can tell you that much. But maybe like the glass, right? Who adds the glass to the iPhone, right? Sometimes it's not Apple. Sometimes it's a third-party company, right? And Apple hires out that firm located elsewhere, right? And then they offer that piece of production to the ultimate good, right? Like Nike shoes. A lot of times, right? The Nike shoe isn't made entirely by Nike, right? Nike hires other businesses, other firms to produce maybe like the sole or like the laces, right? And things like that. That's the idea of outsourcing, is hiring another firm, another business to add some of the resources in the ultimate production of the good. Offshoring is relocating jobs, right? It is Apple is producing in another country and it's still Apple. That's the idea. Outsourcing is Apple producing Apple products, but they're using other firms to produce those products in other countries. Offshoring is literally Apple is producing in another country. And why has this caused this, right? Well, Apple is going to outsource and they're going to offshore and they're going to hire workers, right, in other countries that are going to be manufacturing, right, that are going to be maybe the agriculture and things like that. So it has allowed Americans, comparative advantage specialization, to more so move to other types of employment rather than manufacturing and employment. Again, it kind of goes back to the idea of comparative advantage. Nike people, big corporations, big firms are offshoring and outsourcing for sure, without a doubt, Michael. Yep. For sure, like Nike, Amazon, Apple, like all those firms definitely do both of these. And why, right? It's just cost effective, right? Just cost effective. It costs too much to pay an American worker, to produce glass than cost to pay a worker, I don't know, like in the Philippines or whatever, to make glass, right? Companies are always going to move to cheaper labor, and wherever that is, right? That's where they're going to move to. So that's kind of why. Americans don't really make that kind of stuff anymore, right? They've moved to other types of employment. Alrighty. All right, so next I want to talk about how wages are determined, right? Kyle says the classic PB&J. What's going on, Kyle? So how is your wage determined, right? The amount of money that you earn at your job, how is that going to be determined, right? In a few years, a lot of you guys are going to enter the labor force, formally, right? Many of you guys maybe are not planning on going to college, or many of you guys are maybe planning on going into trades, right? Which will require a little bit of, education and certification after high school. But a lot of you guys are probably going to enter the labor force pretty quick, or you're going to go to college and enter the labor force afterwards. Well, your first paycheck, how is that really going to be determined? How do we know how much workers are going to get paid? Right? Who decides that? Right? There's a lot of things. It's very complex. The price of labor, wages. What determines how much money workers should earn? Number one, generally, is supply and demand. Right? How many workers are out there? Is there a lot of people that can do what you can do? Is the idea, right? How many people out there, can conduct brain surgery? Not that many. I would be insanely scared to conduct brain surgery on somebody. There's not that many brain surgeons out there because, again, it takes many years to become a brain surgeon. And actually, in all honesty, it costs a lot of money, right? A lot of people quite simply can't be a brain surgeon. Maybe not because they don't have the education, the intellectual ability, right? They can't afford it, right? It's kind of like you just can't get there, right? There's no way to fund that many years of schooling. But yeah, if there's not a lot of people that can do that job, those workers are going to get more pay, right? Is the idea. And then how much are people willing to pay for that worker? Like, what is the demand for that good? It's something called derived demand, right? Generally, the demand for you as a worker is derived from the good or service that you produce. Okay, so brain surgery costs tons and tons of money, right? So brain surgeons are going to make tons and tons of money, right? Pizza doesn't cost that much money. So if you're a pizza producer, right, you're probably not going to make that much money. Is the idea? The demand for you is determined by the good or service that you produce. You got to have those steady hands, right? Number two, the skill required for the job, right? So what determines your wage? How skillful is it, right? I like to give an example of like a professional athlete, right? Like an NFL quarterback, right? I know like it's not, we can't really relate to it much, but why do athletes get paid so much, right? A crazy amount, right? Because there's not many that can do the exact skill that they can do, right? Like Patrick Mahomes, right? I know maybe you guys don't watch football and things like that, but think about like the best athletes of all time. Obviously, they made a lot of money because there's not many could do that exact skill set that they can do, right? And you can see it in a lot of different other industries as well. But if you have some skills that not many other people have, right, you're obviously going to get paid more than most. And then the value of the job, right? How much we as society, right, value a certain job. So think about teachers in I think Japan and versus teachers in the United States, right? Teachers in Japan make a lot more money, higher wages than teachers in the U.S. And why is that? Well, society just values education much more in Japan than they do in the United States, right? So therefore, they're going to try to get the best of the best, right, to be teachers in Japan. And how are they going to do that? They're going to incentivize that with wages, right? So just how much society values whatever, right, is definitely going to have an impact on the ultimate wage that worker is going to make. Number four is working conditions, right? Obviously, if there's tough working conditions, that's going to reduce the amount of people that are going to be willing and able to supply their labor for a particular job. You guys ever watch Deadliest Catch? It's kind of an old show, probably, Deadliest Catch, but these fishermen or crab fishermen that would go to Alaska and go on these boats and like crazy conditions, water, going over, the bow and all that, and you're cold and you're away from your family, things like that, right? You're gonna get paid more because they gotta incentivize you to do that job. It's a risky job. Like people die doing that job. Like coal mining, right? Working on like offshore oil mines and things like that. Any sort of dangerous work, you're typically going to be compensated a little bit more because they got to incentivize you to do it, right? You're taking on that risk. Not many people are, right? So to get you to do it, right, they're going to have to give you higher wages. And last but not least is called fringe benefits, which it might be on your note guide, I'm not sure, but it's very important that you know what a fringe benefit is. A fringe benefit is things that you are given, or rather you earn, right, at your job that are not wages. All right, that are not wages. So let me give you an example. When I was about your age, right, my first job ever, and really actually I've only worked 3 different jobs in my life. My first job ever was working at a movie theater. I worked at a movie theater, right? I started off in the concession stand and I would take people's orders and I would shovel popcorn and all that, right? And then eventually I was an usher where I'd walk around and I would sweep popcorn, and I usually just sweep the popcorn underneath the seats, right? because it's easier. Now to watch movies all the time, which really wasn't the best worker. But a fringe benefit of working at the movie theater was when I was on break, I would get free popcorn. When I was on break, I would get free beverages, right? Free slushies. Another fringe benefit was I would get free movies as long as they've been out for 2 weeks. And then sometimes I would be able to get to see the movie on the day before it came out. It feels like a big movie. That's the idea of a fringe benefit. Things that your employer gives you to incentivize you to work that are not wages, right? So all you guys out there that are working, put in the chat maybe some fringe benefits that you receive from your place of employment that are not wages, right? So for me, for teaching, right, healthcare, that is the number one fringe benefit in the U.S. Obviously, because we don't have universal healthcare. Many nations do, right? But my employer helps pay for my healthcare. I have to pay a lot for it still, but my employer helps pay for my healthcare. What are some other fringe benefits that I get as a teacher? Maybe some subscriptions I kind of get maybe for free. I don't know. Sometimes you get discounts in places here and there, but it has to be what your employer gives you. The diamond mining thing. Yeah, so that's the idea of fringe benefit. Like if you work at a golf course, typically you get like free golf on Thursdays, right? Like if you work at Taco Bell, you probably get free food while you're on break. That's the idea of fringe benefits. So what happens is generally the more fringe benefits that you're given, the lower wages that you earn. And the problem is generally healthcare in this country has been rising, so that's an added cost for the employer. So since the employer has to pay more for healthcare, right? Because you're not going to work at a place if you don't get healthcare. I can tell you that right now, people, right? I know jobs that you're typically working right now, unskilled and skilled, or semi-skilled, right? You're probably going to be working there for no healthcare, but like people, like when you get older, right, you're not going to work a job without healthcare being somewhat, afforded to you. So the problem is this, right? So employers have to pay more for healthcare costs. They're going to be less able to pay you higher wages. Is generally what happens. I know, friends of mine that are working jobs. Typically, it's when they go to the negotiating table, right, to ask for higher wages. It's either do you want higher wages or do you want better healthcare, or do you want to pay less in healthcare, right? It's either one of those two. So that's kind of, that ultimately has an impact on the wage that you're ultimately, going to get. Uncle's a diamond miner, and it's all that's available for a job. What are you talking about? What do you mean all that's available for a job? What do you mean by that, Rowan? I get paid under the minimum at Mount Holly because I get free snowboarding whenever. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the more fringe benefits you get, typically you get less and less wages is the idea. Very good. Free snowboarding, can't beat that. I miss my job. People, what are some fringe benefits you get? I know most of you guys are working. I know Arthur's working, right? I know a lot of you guys are working out there. What are some fringe benefits that you get? Right? Dishwashing benefits were great. I never had a job because I'm only 2 months into being 16. RIP. I think you can work at like 15 in so many months, like 15 and 9 months, if you get like a sign thing at the school. I don't know if that's different, but that's how it was when I was a kid. I started working. When I was less than 16. I started working at the movie theater, and when you're less than 16, they only have to give you like 80% of minimum wage. So my first job, I was making $5.91 an hour. Before taxes, I was making $5.91 an hour before taxes, which is crazy. It probably cost me more to drive to the movie theater than I was actually bringing home in wages. Kyle says free golf when it's golfing season. That's a huge fringe benefit. Yeah, mining is very dangerous. Oh, I gotcha. His free housing is a fringe benefit, but he lives pretty much at the mine. Where's the mine at? Like, diamond mines are like in Africa, typically. There's not a lot of diamond mines in the U.S., I feel like. Russia, I think, has a lot of diamond mines. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, supply and demand, right? Yeah, a lot of people can be a security guard, right? Not a lot of people can be lawyers, right? So typically, security guards are going to get paid a little bit less, than lawyers. And then again, that automation kind of comes into effect again, too, right? Cameras and things like that kind of begin to replace security guards over time, right? I think... probably haven't told this class, but it's the idea of structural unemployment. When I last went into the school, like in September, they were installing new cameras at West Campus. There's ton of people. When you guys ultimately return to school, which actually, like, again, word on the CrossFit path is probably pretty soon here. Just know there's a lot more cameras than there ever has been in the school. So what you're probably going to see is if there's more cameras, right, there's probably going to be less of a need for security guards, the red shirts, at the school is the idea. So again, if employers can move to automation and it's cheaper, they're going to do so. All right. I can eat whenever I want, since it's like all my family and close friends. We do not really have breaks besides when it's slow. I get that for sure. Pretty sweet. What restaurant do you work at, Arthur? I'd get some takeout there at some point. All right. Anyway, all right. So next up on your note guide is two terms. One's called the learning effect, and this is an idea that the more you learn, in general, not always, but in general, the more you're likely going to earn in your lifetime. Learn more, earn more. That's the idea of the learning effect, right? So again, the more advanced degree you get, or the more advanced certifications that you get, the more you're probably going to earn in your lifetime. But obviously, right, if you look at all these different degrees, again, it costs more money to get these degrees, so you have to weigh that in, right? I don't want to push you guys to go to college and universities, right? Especially the majority of it's online right now, because student loans is a big deal, right? It is a big deal. I mean, if you can get these advanced degrees with minimal cost, then definitely, right, you're going to be better hands. But if getting a professional degree to make a lot of money requires you to spend a lot of money, right, then you got to weigh in that the difference. I'll just give you a personal experience. My student loans is about 25 to 30% of my salary. About 25 to 30% of my salary, right? It's a lot. Okay, screening effect. So what is a screening effect? The screening effect basically is the more degrees and the more certifications and the more things that you obtain, not only will probably make you earn more in your life, right? Because you have less supply, less workers can do what you can. You probably have more advanced skills and things like that. But screening effect more so is this idea that just simply having a degree, right? Having a degree in anything and having a degree wherever, right, will probably show employers that you are a hard worker and you're probably more intelligent than maybe someone that doesn't have a degree or certifications and things of that nature. That's the idea, right? A lot of employers, they hire workers and they hire workers with degrees that probably don't really have degrees in what they're actually working in, but just having a degree sets you apart from others. Having a degree shows employers that you set a goal, you have set a goal in your life, you've achieved that goal in your life, right? And it probably shows that you're a hard worker, right? And you're able to, kind of battle through some sort of perseverance or adversity in having some sort of level of perseverance. That's the idea of the screening effect, right? Just having a degree shows workers that you probably work hard. Is the idea. Stinky math syndrome. What are you guys talking about now? South Africa. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. See, that's just high IQs, geography right there. Did you see that? I just realized waking up in the morning as early as we're really gonna have to get rid of that morning breath because we're smelling that. Oh gosh. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So here's, again, more of this idea of learn more, earn more, but I like this graphic a lot because it also shows unemployment rates, right? The percent of people with these degrees that are currently unemployed. Now remember, we haven't learned about it yet, apologize, but we will learn that there is a natural level of unemployment in our country, right? Generally, people are going to be unemployed just quite simply due to reasons that they're between work, right? If I quit my job teaching and I try to get a job doing something else, right, that doesn't really mean there's poor economic health or like I can't find a job. It's just like there's time that it takes to find a job, and during that time I will be categorized as unemployed. So that's probably what you're seeing up here, right? It's not like a doctor can't find work. It's just these doctors that 1.5% of doctors are unemployed, right? It's just like they're transitioning maybe between hospitals and things of the sorts. But yeah, definitely the more advanced degrees you get, the less likely you're going to be unemployed, and the more advanced degrees you get, you're probably going to make more and more money over time. Okay. All right. So let's get to the different types of workers here. Man, we are taking a lot of time. I apologize. So there's 4 types of workers, right? This is that table that you see at the bottom of the note guide. We have unskilled workers, an unskilled worker, and it kind of sounds like demeaning, right? But that's not the intention of this. But unskilled worker is a worker that generally, doesn't have a lot of skills, right? It's generally a worker that is young, right? It's generally a worker that is entering the labor force for the first time, right? It was me when I was working at the movie theater, right? I didn't have a lot of education or skills and things like that. It was hey, here's how you mop, right? Here's how you sweep. Here's how you work a cash register, right? Unskilled work is generally a supervisor gives you instructions on how to do it, a repeatable task, right? And you can repeat that task, right? It's not that crazy. When I was in the Army, it would be like a private. It'd be a private in the Army, right? I would give them instructions, and just giving them instructions in the current moment, I would expect them to fulfill the task, right? You don't need any skills and experience and knowledge before taking upon the work, right? So these workers are going to be supervised. They generally have not a lot of specialized skills or training. They're probably going to make a low hourly wage. I would say custodians are almost semi-skilled, right? Because you have to know how to do a lot of different things. But generally, again, these are jobs that you get hired upon. Your first day is probably training, right? And then the second day, you're expected to do the job, right? That's kind of the idea of an unskilled worker. And again, let it be known that like unskilled workers are not less important to society than professional workers, right? We have to have people working in fast food. We have to have people working in landscaping. We have to have waiters and waitresses and things like that. We have to. They're not less important than anybody else. Okay, so let's be clear. Bartenders are actually a little bit more advanced. Bartenders are generally, to get a bartending job, you have to have prior work experience in restaurants and maybe being a waiter or waitress, things like that. It generally is a little bit more, I would say, semi-skilled or even skilled at certain places. It kind of depends on where it's at. Yeah. All right. So semi-skilled is kind of that next step, right? This is when you hire a worker, and they have to have some sort of skills already, right? I can't give you 5 minutes of instruction and have you repeat that task. You have to already have some sort of skills brought to the table, and then I give you some instructions, and it kind of comes together, right? Like being a cashier, right? Being a cashier probably is a little bit more semi-skilled, right? One, you have to be able to talk to people, which is a skill. One that I can't, instruct you on how to do so. You just have to be pleasing and friendly to people. You have to be able to, work well with money. You're working with technology, which has its ups and downs. I remember when I was a cashier, right? Like there was times where things would bug out, and the what's it called? Where you get your receipt, right? The paper will get jammed up. Like there's things you'd have to battle through, right? It's a little bit more advanced. So again, these workers are also going to be supervised. They're going to get paid a little bit more probably than unskilled workers, but they're still going to get paid hourly. So what I mean by you're going to have to punch in, punch out sort of thing, right? I would say construction workers are probably a little bit more skilled, but yeah, like a taxi driver, right? You got to be able to, drive. I can't teach how to drive in 5 minutes. You got to be able to drive a little bit, but there's not a whole lot, more than you really need, things like that. Okay, a skilled worker is still going to get paid hourly. This is the big thing that separates a skilled worker from a professional worker, is you're getting paid hourly. Sometimes skilled workers have more skills and experience and degrees than a professional worker, but the biggest thing that separates it is you're still clocking in and clocking out, right? You're still working hourly. So carpenters, bank tellers, factory workers, right? Someone that operates a forklift, right? These people, right? They don't need supervision, right? A skilled worker jumps on the forklift, gets the job done, and that's it, right? They don't need supervision, right? A carpenter, right? Works on the attic, and the other person's working on somewhere else, right? They don't need supervision. That's the idea of a skilled worker. So generally, you'd probably at least have to have a high school diploma and probably some sort of other, college or certifications, other things that you've done, or just a lot of work experience to kind of become a skilled worker. All right. This term blue collar worker, right? You need to know what the term of a blue collar worker generally is a worker that's working with their hands, right? Like a carpenter and things like that. It's the idea of like a blue collar worker. And then a professional worker, right? A professional worker generally has at least a bachelor's degree, a little bit more than an associate's degree. But the big thing about a professional worker is that you receive a salary. That's the biggest difference. Now again, right? Carpenters probably make more than I do, right? Sometimes factory workers probably make more than I do and things like that. Now, do they work more? Probably, right? But again, it's not the more advanced your type of worker becomes, the more money you get. It's not really how it works, right? We talk about how wages are determined, but just how workers are classified. A professional worker is one that makes a salary, right? So what is a salary? That means you know exactly the amount of money you're going to make in a given year, and you can be sick, right? And that salary is going to stay the same, most likely, no matter what, right? And so obviously there's benefits and there's costs of working salary and working hourly, right? What is a cost of working salary? Right, a cost is, for example, right, if I stayed after, I mean, this is kind of different times, like in a normal school setting, right, if I sit after 2:30 and I tutored a student, I helped the student out until like 3:30, do I get paid more? No. That's the idea, right? If you work overtime as a salaried worker, well, sometimes salaried workers can actually get overtime, but generally, right, there's like, I can't make more money if I wanted to. Right, it's kind of a cost of being a salaried worker. But a benefit is, right, if I'm feeling sick, my pay doesn't, I still get the same amount of pay, right? It's easier to budget. I know exactly how much I'm going to get every 2 weeks. It makes it much easier. So yeah, it's just, again, white collar, blue collar is this term. White collar generally is one that, like a white collared shirt, like white collar, black tie, like a white collared shirt. One that's working like in business and things like that, right? So white collared workers, just a term that you probably should know. All right, so that is pretty much it. I'm going to post these notes for you to make sure your note guide's all good to go. And I want to leave you with this, and we'll jump into Google Classroom very, very quickly because I want to see you guys a little bit today. Is how can you start increasing your human capital today? How can you right now become more and more scarce? Because that's really what's happening. When you increase your human capital, you're becoming more scarce. Well, there's less of you out there that have those skills. What would be an architect? Yeah, architect would definitely be a professional for sure, without a doubt. Generally, you have to have a bachelor's degree to become an architect. But yeah. All right, so how can you increase your human capital today? Identify what you're good at. Identify what you like. Identify what you're passionate about. I think I asked you guys that when you did your flip grid in the beginning of the year, right? I was like, what are you passionate about? What do you care about, right? Don't work a job that you don't care about, right? Like, don't work a job that you're not interested in, that doesn't bring you utility and happiness, right? That's the number one thing I think you need to do, right? Before you ultimately want to figure out what you want to do in life, figure out what you're good at, and then figure out what you like, okay? Mr. Babias says it best. I don't know if you've ever had Mr. Babias, but Mr. Babias says, find what you love and do it so well that people pay you for it. It's a really good quote by one of my colleagues. Find what you love and do it so well people pay you for it. You know what I mean? Number two is, okay, fine, whatever you're good at and whatever you're interested in, figure out what you need to do, right? Figure out what school you need to go to, figure out what kind of certifications and licensing you need to ultimately get that job. Right? Some of it is playing the game of school, right? Some of you guys are going to become an architect and you might have to do chemistry in college. You got to get through it, right? 3, gain work and experience and on-the-job training, right? So, again, if you want to be, a firefighter, right? Maybe in the summertime, like go to the fire station, right? And ask if you can volunteer and help out and do some sort of, work experience, right? If you want to be a police officer, do some ride-alongs, right? Things like that. If you want to be a teacher, enroll in, the teaching class here at Grand Blanc, right? Things like that. Number 4 is a big one. Just increase your overall personal productivity, right? You can't be lazy and then all of a sudden be like, you know what? When I'm like 24, I'm gonna be very productive, right? It kind of just stays with you. It kind of makes you the person you are, right? So just increase your overall personal productivity today. If you turn assignments in late, you're probably gonna do that in the workforce. You're probably gonna meet deadlines late in the workforce. And last but not least, build a personal professional network. Branch out, meet other people. Because you never know, you might change jobs, you might need that network and that makes yourself a little bit more scarce as well. Like if you know other people in other industries and things like that. So again, we were not afforded the opportunity to watch Jobs in class, but Jobs, this movie quote I like to go back to after we watched it. It says, in talking about whatever you want to do in life, it has to be something that you're passionate about. If you work a job that you're not passionate about, you don't truly love, right? Whenever adversity hits, right, you're not going to have the perseverance to see it through. You're not going to be able to battle through those tough times if you don't truly love it, right? So that's kind of what I want you to leave you with today. Like, because I know, right, as a junior and a senior, right, you're kind of trying to figure out what you want to do in life, right? And there's tons of different ways and there's tons of different things you can do, right? But I would say start off with what are you good at and what do you love to do, okay? And then money will come along with it. You know, I think money's sort of secondary. All right, people. I'll see you guys in Google Classroom. I want to talk about that last part of the assignment, right? Those 3 questions that follow, and then we'll call it a day. So hop in there real quick. I need to get another